Okay. So we are discussing about differences between ESP82 and 8266 and ESP32, right? So here coming to the applications of ESP8266 and ESP32. So yeah, of course, Bluetooth devices is present in ESP32 because it is having Bluetooth functionality. And one more thing that here we need to important thing we need to understand is that whatever the applications of ESP8266, those all applications are applicable with ESP32. But few applications of ESP32 may not be applicable with ESP82. So one such example is that audio amplification, audio related application. So why for audio applications we use ESP32 not 82? Any idea? Why we use ESP32 but not ESP82? For audio applications we usually prefer ESP82 module rather than ESP32. So the reason is that, as we discussed earlier, ESP8266 is having only analog to digital converters, but not digital to analog converters. Whereas ESP32s can convert an analog signal into digital signal and a digital waveform into an analog output, right? So whenever in audio applications, we usually the huge requirement is for digital to analog converters. Basically, you are having a digital signal, right? Let's say you're having an MP3 file with you. So you can you just someone tell me what's the what's the file format we usually use to play some audios in ESP module? Usually we use something like .wav, okay, .wav. There are other file formats also. So this file format, this audio file, okay. Let's say you're having an MP3, we'll be converting into some other file format which is supported by ESP. So the file carries the digital information about the audio, how it needs to be played. The entire audio is encoded in a digital form, okay, digital waveform. So now these digital waveform or digital pulses of waveform, these must be converted back into analog wave. Then only it can be played through the speakers, okay. So we call this particular thing which convert a digital waveform into an analog waveform is called as digital to analog converters, which is specifically found on ESP32 modules, not in it is absent in ESP82. Okay, so that's why audio applications are possible with ESP32s, not with ESP82s. That's the one of the important thing. Now let's see few of the kinds of ESP32s. Okay, I'm going to the actual official website of Espressif company. Here you can find complete information about ESP32s. Okay, these are the different variants of ESPs. See, ESP32 C2, C3, C5, C6. Again in C61, H2, P4, S2, S3. So different variants may have different kinds of clock frequencies and different storage capacity memory. Okay, so let me check if I have an image. Uh, I'm just sharing my screen for a while, and I'll share you again. I hope my screen is visible, right? Someone just respond. I hope my screen is visible, right? Yeah. Yeah. So now we are having a quick comparison between different variants of ESP modules. Uh, Not all the variants we are discussing in a single session. Okay. So due to time uh, constraints, we are discussing the quick comparison between C2, C3, C5, and C6. Don't ask me about C4. So just explore about C4 and let me know. Okay. So it's a task for you. What happened to ESP32 C4? Just explore about it and let me know. Okay. In the group, you just post. So today's your task is what happened to ESP32 C4. Okay. Yeah. Now the comparison is between C2, C3, C5, and C6. So as you can check, in Wi-Fi there are different versions. Okay, whatever the Wi-Fi protocol, so we are able to send and receive files, right? We can send file, we can receive the file with the help of Wi-Fi. But even the Wi-Fi, in Wi-Fi also there are versions like Wi-Fi 4, Wi-Fi 6. There are different versions. So these 32, ESP32 C2 and C3. Okay, they operate on Wi-Fi 4. Okay, version number 4. And even in Wi-Fi there are two major frequencies. One is 2.4 gigahertz frequency and another one is 5 gigahertz frequency. These are the two major frequencies supported by Wi-Fi. Okay, 2.4 gigahertz frequency and 5 gigahertz frequency. So what's the importance of 5 gigahertz frequency? What is the advantage of using 5 gigahertz frequency over 2.4 gigahertz frequency is that? So we can easily 5 gigahertz enables us to transmit the data more efficiently without loss of information, and the latency is also reduced. Okay, so the information can be exchanged very fast. Yeah. So over 5 gigahertz frequency, the information can be exchanged very fastly. Okay, latency is reduced and the range is also increased. So coming to 2.4, it is, we can exchange the information, but a little bit, it takes longer time. If you send a file, it will take a little bit longer. So that's why if I see we are having, even if you just check the Wi-Fi setting, I'll show you out here. If you just check the hotspot settings, there you will find the information. I'm going to information panel. Okay, I'm just going to information, router information. So I'm currently connected to this particular router. Okay, Wi-Fi router. So here you can check the frequency network band. So it is being operated at 2.4 gigahertz frequency right now. Okay. So this is how you can identify at what frequency. Here you can check the protocol. See, the protocol is Wi-Fi and version is 4, isn't it? Wi-Fi version is 4 and the frequency is 2.4 gigahertz. So everything will have a particular network band at which it is operated. It could be the 2.4 or 5 gigahertz and the protocol, whether you are using Wi-Fi 4 or Wi-Fi 6. Okay. So coming to C2, C3 operate at Wi-Fi 4, 2.4 gigahertz frequency, whereas C5 is operating at C5 and C6 both are operating at Wi-Fi 6 function, Wi-Fi 6 protocol, which is the latest protocol. Okay, and if you check the frequency, ESP32C5 supports both 2.4 and 5 gigahertz frequency, whereas C6 supports only 2.4 gigahertz frequency. Coming to the Bluetooth, so both all three C2, C3, and C5 all are operated at Bluetooth low energy functionality having the version number 5, but whereas C6 is operated at 5.3. So from this one thing we can understand that ESP32C6 is having, the Bluetooth is little bit advanced than the C5. But coming to the Wi-Fi comparison between the Wi-Fi of C5 and C6, both are using the same protocol, but the network band C6 is operated only at 2.4 gigahertz frequency, but C5 are having dual band. You can operate it at either 2.4 gigahertz frequency or 5 gigahertz frequency as per your convenience. Okay. So that's about a comparison between Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. Okay, in these C5, C6, and all other modules. So coming to the clock signal. Okay, so why I'm excluding this particular parameter? There's a meaning in that. We will discuss about this particular parameter in detail in the upcoming session. So that's why I'm just excluding it for right now. So coming to the maximum clock, ESP32C2 supports only 120 megahertz frequency. So I told you that in the earlier comparison between ESP82 and 32, I told you ESP32s can support up to 240 megahertz frequency. But it doesn't necessarily mean that all variants of ESP32s support 240 megahertz frequency, right? Different variants have different clock frequencies. So ESP32 C2 is having 120 megahertz, T3 160, and C5 240. But whereas for C6 again 160 megahertz frequency only. Okay, so it is a little bit advanced in terms of Bluetooth function, I mean Bluetooth protocol, but still the clock frequency is low and it is not supporting 5 gigahertz frequency despite it is using Wi-Fi 6 protocol. Still 5 gigahertz frequency is missing. But whereas if you find in C5 you are having 2.4 and 5 gigahertz, so Bluetooth 5, that's very sufficient. Okay, no need to use 5.3. 5 is also very sufficient, it works very perfectly. So it is having 240 megahertz frequency, clock frequency. So come one more important aspect is SRAM, okay, memory. So if you just check the SRAM, so here you are having 272 KB ESP32, okay, C2, and C3 400 KB, and C5 384 KB. So C6 512 KB. You are having high SRAM, high SRAM memory is allocated for ESP32 C6. So that's the important thing. So it depends upon your project. So what kind of parameters that you want to choose? If 384 KB is sufficient for you, that's fine. You can go with C5. So you can ultimately the decision is up to you. Whatever you want among these variants, you can choose accordingly depending upon the requirements of your project. So this is today's session. So yeah, I hope it's clear, right? Yeah. So any questions? Quickly, if you have any questions, you can ask your question. Yes, what's your question? You're asking about the whatever that I presented it, right? The document. Yeah, right after the session, it will be posted in the group. Just once the session is ended, it will be posted in the group. Yeah. So thank you for joining today's session of ESP32 and Embedded C program. This is your expert mentor, Hemant from Suchana, signing off. Bye bye.